Sunday of Advent. It is also known as this particular Sunday, Gaudete Sunday. Now, that's a Latin term, and as you know, for many, many centuries in the Catholic Church, Latin was the main language of the church, and it still is the official language of the church, but since Vatican Council II back in the 60s, we're able to say Mass in the vernacular, the mother tongue of the nation in which the Mass is being offered. However, there are many Latin words that still remain in the Catholic lexicon, and this is one describing the third Sunday of Advent, Gaudete Sunday. Now, this is what the word Gaudete means. It means to rejoice and to be happy. And what happens is this. Again, this is the third Sunday of Advent. There are only 4 Sundays of Advent. And right now, we're a little bit beyond the halfway point to the birth of our Savior Christmas time. So now is the time to really begin to get anxious and excited and really start to rejoice and be happy as we're getting really close now to the birth of our Savior. The church believes that a color that demonstrates rejoicing and happiness is the color rose, as opposed to the color purple. So for the 4 Sundays of Advent, if you take a look at our Advent wreath, on 3 Sundays, the first and second Sunday of Advent, we light the purple candles. Then on the third Sunday of Advent, signified Gaudete Sunday, a more happier color, the priest wears a rose-colored vestment, and we light the rose-colored candle. And the next Sunday, the 4th Sunday of Advent, we light all 4 candles, and again, we're going to light another purple candle for next Sunday. Now, I remember back when I got into the seminary. Before getting into the seminary, I'd never been in a Catholic school before. So when I got to the seminary after college, I wasn't that familiar at that point in time with the Latin terminology of the church. I never heard this word. So I remember I'm having a nice conversation with the priest professor at St. Vincent Seminary in Latrobe. We're just having a great conversation, and this priest professor said to me, it's a couple days before the third Sunday of Advent, so it's a couple days before Gaudete Sunday. And he said to me, Ken, Sunday, Gaudete Sunday. I thought he said to me, Ken, Sunday, got a date for Sunday. Because I'm thinking to myself, wow, the seminary is going to be a lot easier to get through than I thought. and I said to him, I looked right at him, and as serious could be, and I said to him, I don't have one, but I can get one. I haven't been out of circulation that long. Fortunately for me, he had no idea what I was talking about, because I'm positive if he knew what I was talking about, he would ask me to get my bags and pack up and go home. You know, this is a very perplexing time, however, for a lot of people, because we want to rejoice and we want to be happy. But there's a lot of people who say at this time of year, how can I be? I am estranged from a family member, maybe several family members. I'm estranged from a person I once used to call my friend. We walked together in this world, and all of a sudden, for some reason, words were spoken, and I haven't seen my friend in so long. It is so painful. How can I rejoice and how can I be happy? What should you do? It reminds me of this family farm out in the state of Minnesota. There was this mother, father, and a 3-year-old son, little Ryan. Well, one day the father's out in the field working, and the mother's in the house doing the laundry, and Ryan is just playing around the legs of his mother. He's all over his mom, climbing up and down her legs. She's trying to do laundry. Well, she gets the laundry out of the washing machine, and she goes outside to hang it on a line. And Ryan's all over the place. She's hanging clothes, and after she gets the last piece of clothing hung on a line, she's ready to go back in the house. She looks around, she can't find Ryan. So she starts yelling for Ryan, 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 where are you? He doesn't respond. So she runs in the house to get him. He's not in the house. She runs back outside, still can't find Ryan. So she gets really worried. She calls her husband, who's out in the fields, to come on in. I can't find Ryan. So the father comes with his tractor, and they're looking for Ryan together. They can't find him. The father, in desperation, calls the police department, speaks to the chief. He said, Chief, I can't find my son Ryan. He's lost out in this huge farm of ours. And the chief said, I will organize a search team. We'll be over there in about 20 minutes. About 50 people arrived in 20 minutes on this huge farm to find Ryan. They're looking all over the place, but they can't find him. It started to get dark, and the chief said, we have to call off the search. It is just too risky to have all these people searching in the woods and the fields for your son. They could get hurt. They themselves could get lost. They called off the search. That night, however, a cold Arctic blast made its way into Minnesota on the location of this farm. Very, very cold temperatures. Early in the morning, with the first light of morning, all these search people showed back up onto the farm to look for Ryan. They wanted to find this little fella. Where is he? He definitely wasn't in the house, so he's out in the field somewhere. So all these search people, there's over 100 of them, they're looking all over the place in all different directions. Finally, the father thought to himself, this isn't working. We're using a helter-skelter approach to find my son, and it's nice that everyone's here, and they're looking with enthusiasm to find my son, but we need to organize. We have to have some solid methodology. This just isn't working. People are running all over the place. So the father borrowed the bullhorn from the chief of police, and he called all the search people together in front of the house. And he said, what we have to do is organize. He said, what I would ask is that if we all hold hands and we're going to canvass each one of my fields systematically. We'll go through one and then we'll go through another field. But if we hold hands and walk through the fields kind of with our legs scraping the ground, hopefully using that method, we'll be able to find my son. And shortly, it's cold out here. So they did exactly that. They held their hands and they formed a long line, and they started on the largest of the fields of the farm, and they start working through that field using good organization. After they're walking through that field, one of the search people hit something, and he looked down, and it was Ryan. And the search person said, I found him, I found him, I found him. And the father came running over and he looked at his little boy, and he picked up his son. Unfortunately for his little son and for the mother and the father and for that community, that cold air mass got to his son before they did. When the father picked him up, he held on to his lifeless body. The little fellow was dead, taken by the cold. And as the father's holding on to his son, he yelled out something that was so important. He yelled out, too bad we didn't hold hands sooner. If we had held hands sooner, we would have found my son quicker. The little boy was just 300 yards from the farmhouse. You know, that's the challenge of the third Sunday of Advent. We don't go through these 4 Sundays just as we count them and we say, good, I got 1 in, and number 2 and 3 and 4, now it's Christmas. This is a time of challenge for all of us. What can I do in my life to become a better person and prepare myself in a proper way for the birth of Christ? And if you look at your life, maybe it's not true for your life, then that's something to celebrate. But as you look at your life and you say to yourself, I am estranged from a family member, brother, sister, even mom and dad I haven't spoken to in years. I'm estranged from them. Or a friend. You might say to yourself, I know what I got to do. The challenge is whether or not I rise to the challenge and accept it, that's one thing. Whether or not I just succumb to the challenge and don't worry about it. But you might want to say to yourself, now is the time to reach out and hold hands with the person I once held hands with before. My sibling, my parents, a friend. You know, as a priest, obviously, you go to a funeral home a lot. And when I'm there, I have conversation with people. And I'll have conversations, many conversations, over all these years. And I'll be talking to a son or daughter, mother or father. And they will say to me that they're more out of obligation than out of love. To tell me that they wanted, as they looked toward the casket, that they were estranged from the person in that casket, typically a family member. They knew that they had to one day reunite with that person, re-engage into that person's life, but they always put it off because they claimed it was too painful. Sometimes it is difficult to swallow your pride, to eat a little bit of humble pie. But that's what it's called for in many occasions. Because what is more difficult than swallowing your pride is to say, I don't have to live the rest of my life never being able to say to the person I had words with, I am sorry, let's get back together. How painful is that? That is extremely painful. Which is more painful? I would have to say, living without being able to tell someone you're sorry. Living now without being able to tell someone because they died, I miss you. You're my sibling. You're my blood. You're my mother. You're my father. Let's get back together. The third Sunday of Advent, God, Day Takes Sunday, a time to rejoice and to be happy, but some people say, I can't rejoice and I can't be happy because my life and those who are supposed to be in it, it just isn't right. I'm estranged from people that I should not be estranged from. I converse more with strangers than family members. That's nice, but you're saying at the same time, it's upside down. What you don't want to do is ever to say in your life what this father said when he held up the lifeless body of his little son. And that dad yells out, too bad we didn't hold hands sooner. You don't want to wake up Christmas morning happy about certain parts of your life and disappointed about others. Realizing that this can never be a perfect Christmas because I'm estranged from people I should not be estranged from. You don't want to say after they're dead, too bad we didn't hold hands sooner.